Welcome, everybody, to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. If you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement, give our thoughts, give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a TV show, and that TV show is The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 1. Here to discuss, as always, the triple threat, Chris Trio.
Gooch, you, of course, have my axe.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for forming this fellowship.
You're very welcome.
And to fill out this fellowship, returning for the first time since his debut on the Brendan Fraser-thon Rewind review.
I'll tell you what, I thought this was going to be George of the Jungle today, so I'm going to have to go back.
I did lie to him to get him here, by the way.
Jesus Christ. The inventor of the Luke Kenney movie review system, of course, the titular Luke Kenney.
Thank you.
Welcome back, man.
Thank
you for returning.
Good to be back.
So I actually appreciate you asked to be on this one.
I did.
Yeah.
What was there specific? Are you a big Lord of the Rings
He came
fan?
to my house.
Yeah, I know. You showed up with a torch and a knife, and it was very disconcerting. And you were like, "I'm going to be on this podcast."
I just had a feeling that this podcast was going to happen, and
Yeah,
I
your feeling was
am
correct.
a big Lord of the Rings guy.
I love it.
I've like I can't say I've read the Silmarillion or I've read.
All right. Well, you do have to go now. No.
There are the stairs, my friend.
And we'll get into the Hobbit, but
I have read The Hobbit.
I
But
want
other
to.
than that,
not even reading the Hobbit, just even the
movie.
Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually got
I've
The
seen
Hobbit
and
on
read.
audiobook, and it's read by Andy Serkis. I started it, and it's very good, but I
You
just
mean
haven't gotten back
the
around to finishing
seminal
it.
Venom 2 director?
Yes, thank you.
Andy Serkis?
God.
The only
Okay.
thing he is known for. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. But yeah, guys, we're here to talk of the Rings of Power. I don't know about you. I know, well, we just kind of gave our background on Luke. I don't know much about the Lord of the Rings lore in general.
neither do I.
This definitely prompted me to look up a lot of things, which, what someone mentioned to me, they were like, yeah, you had to look it up because it doesn't really fill it in here. I'm like, you're kind of right. I really kind of felt like I had to look up a good amount of background to this, but it's been fun to learn about it, a universe I know little to nothing about. But overall, just broad thoughts before we get into specifics. Luke, what did you think?
well, one thing you started with saying The Rings of Power Season 1.
Correct.
Do we know if there's a season? No,
They're
there's got to be a
they're
season.
filming it.
Yeah.
Actually, they started filming it
I
already.
mean, where it ended, it's obvious that there's gonna be a
For
season.
sure.
I think they did confirm it's a season 2.
Yeah, well, I think at
I mean,
first
like,
they
it's
even...
just so
it's-
much
it's-
in
it's
between.
clear as day.
So much in between where this ended and where the Fellowship of the Ring begins that it's like
Right.
Well,
that
so
needs
this
to
is
be
the
resolved.
second age, right?
Yes.
And then the Lord of the Rings is the third age.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like 2,000 years
Years later.
There's a big gap.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
not much is even written in the Silmarillion about this time period.
No,
right?
and I'm pretty sure there was a decent amount that there are characters in this that were not Tolkien didn't create.
Yes,
so.
there are definitely many
Yeah.
original characters. I mean, even are
Oh,
the
yeah.
Harfoots like a Tolkien thing?
I mean, they're just essentially hobbits.
Yeah, I know.
but,
I
the
feel
whole
like I thought I saw
legality
something
thing.
of. So that's the thing.
Yeah,
The rights
that.
thing on
Yeah.
this is very odd. I was looking it up. They don't have the rights to the Silmarillion or his broader works, but they have the rights to everything that was mentioned within the Hobbit movies and all of the Peter Jackson movies and the animated movies they made back in the 80s.
Animated Hobbit film.
Yes. So
Wait, seriously?
yeah.
That's
Oh no, wait. I'm
fucking
sorry. I missed what I misunderstood. What did you?
So the Hobbit was like an animated. It's made
Yeah,
by Rankin
yeah,
and
I
Bass.
believe-
The guy they do all the Christmas.
I
cartoons.
believe so. All of that is covered underneath the rights that they
That's
obtained for
hilarious.
this thing. So
Do you know about that?
Is that the 70s cartoon movie?
I believe
The Lord of the
so.
Rings? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
So they
No,
were
it's-
very hindered into
They're
this.
using the information from that
Well,
movie.
so they can basically use anything that's mentioned
Yeah,
within
okay.
those movies. So not necessarily how they're presented in that, but I guess obviously not
Yeah.
necessarily the
just like a
animated ones,
cheat.
but they can use Galadriel. Obviously, they can use a lot of the Elven people, Elrond, stuff like that. So it's an interesting thing to kind of kick off from because you saw Embracer Group actually just bought all the rights, which is like this big kind of multimedia conglomerate that bought the actual rights to all of Tolkien's works
wow.
and things like that, and they're gonna start pumping out a ton of shit soon. So just be ready for that. But yeah, to get back to it, I apologize. What did you think broadly, Luke?
Do we want to start with the tier list?
Do we want to start or end with that? Oh, what it is? Yeah, I mean, if you want to explain what this
Oh,
new
yeah,
tier
no,
list is
you-
going to be,
No. I mean, I was just gonna say I was gonna give my rating, and
I think we should
you
wait
wanna-
till the
you
end.
wanna-
But you have a TV.
Or is it
version.
just still
I-
the same
I
thing?
don't.
It just
I don't.
interchanges.
Come on.
you
That's
can
okay.
Just brainstorm that the entire.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's what I'm like. Yeah, I was like, how do we do like a TV version of this? But yeah, let's wait till the end.
Okay.
Let's
I
wait till
agree.
the end.
So-
That's what we've usually been doing.
I was
Were you disappointed? Were you?
No, I'm fulfilled.
You were?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Oh, okay.
it was very back and forth. Like there were times where I was like, flick, and then like there were some times where I'm like I teared up a little bit at a
For
few
sure.
points. Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, it was I appreciate it. Yeah.
You overall,
Okay.
that's cool. That's actually good to hear.
That's you're whelmed.
As someone,
Yeah.
Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just
but
very
you're whelmed. Gooch, what about you?
Well, the entire season walked so that finale could fucking run. Everything the last 3 episodes I think are the high point, but everything before that really boring in my opinion. I found myself really like struggling to stay engaged, and I think this show suffers from what I call the Walking Dead syndrome, which is there's too many characters and there's too much going on, and we're trying to give everyone
Their screen
focus.
time, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like I don't really think we're gonna get all those characters in season 2. At least it doesn't seem like we are. I hope season 2 is gonna be more focused. I mean, especially with the way it ends. But the last 3 episodes, I thought I was like, okay, here we go. Here we fucking go. Rings of Power. We're finally getting to them actually being made. But the show isn't bad. I just found it just kind of boring. I was getting like lost in the sauce a little bit. The first episode's pretty good, but it's just like those in the middle episodes. It's like,
Sure.
Okay, this week we're not doing the Harfoot shit.
Thank God.
Okay,
Next
well,
week we're
yeah, I
back.
wanted to get into that. Like that whole storyline can just toss that.
Just
in the
go
trash
fuck
for
right
me.
off.
Like,
Except for like 1 or 2 parts of it that I don't mind
like the
personally.
I
end
wouldn't
of
even
it.
say that.
Really?
Yeah.
No, fair.
Yeah.
Anything else though, Gooch? Some broad thoughts?
Trio, go for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of where Luke is at, I think. Very back and forth. I thought the
Yeah.
first episode was very overwhelming. And they were like,
Right,
okay,
'cause
so
it's
there's
like,
these 2
here's-
trees and a big shadow came and destroyed everything.
Morgoth,
Who's
yeah.
Morgoth? What's happening? I would have liked to maybe see like some more flashbacks of that, but I literally don't think they could show a lot of that because of the rights issues.
That's so wild that they made this show with that being a thing, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They were like, we're still gonna do this.
Jeff Bezos was like, no, we're going to pump $53 million in each episode. Thank you very much.
and here's 15 out of my own pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, very back and forth. I was a bit confused on some storylines here and there. I do think they do a good job in kind of focusing by the end of the season, but it was good. I definitely, like, I see people, my favorite YouTube thumbnails now are, this is just for anything. This is the worst thing ever, or this is the
Clickbait,
best thing ever.
Big
I
mouth
just feel
open.
like there's a lot of on the edges opinions about the show. I find it to be pretty engaging, but like I said, the first half a bit underwhelming. I mean, sets wise and just
Just
looks
said
wise.
sex-wise.
Sex wise, it's nothing.
Yeah, very
There's really
lacking.
nothing. I would appreciate some more Game of Thrones, penises thrown in
I
there.
mean, this
But
show looks like 53 million or whatever is pumped into every episode.
just the
for
physical
sure.
sets in general, like Durin's home.
Yeah.
That all is real, and it looks so good, and it just makes you feel like the world is real and lived in, which is nice. And it definitely feels like more of a live world than especially Lord of the Rings. I feel like in that series you were just walking through a lot of ruins of these places. I mean, you still get a few like elven cities here and there, but
Yeah.
it feels a lot less grand when you get to
Lord
those
of the
movies.
Rings and The Hobbit aren't really worldly. They're not really building on anything of the world. They're very focused on that conflict,
And
right?
definitely.
Where
And
this is not necessarily like that.
well, and I just think a lot more going on in the world at this point where again, from my very vast YouTube rabbit hole that I've went down on this, it does seem like the Third Age is kind of things on the decline compared to this, and especially the First Age. The First Age is like this big kind of magic-filled time, and it kind of just slowly declines from there. But I mean, Numenor looked amazing in my opinion. Ellendale, what's the elven city? I can't remember. Linden,
yeah.
looks awesome. Just set wise,
Okay.
every moment of this. I'm curious.
I was a little not impressed with Khazad Doom.
Really? I thought that was my favorite one.
I wanted to see more of it. I don't think we saw enough of it.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the grandiose outside, like the houses are cool, but like, the outside, if you want to call it that, the
Yeah.
outside of like the homes where like you're seeing the depths and stuff. I thought they did like almost a better job in The Hobbit at showing those, but those were like a very, obviously CGI heavy, but very like fantastical.
Sure.
Like this seemed more grounded and real approach to like how they actually decided to make these
Yeah.
sets.
Well-
what were you about to say, Luke?
Well, have like a million thoughts right now, so I don't know if you want to wait till like we get to each subject.
No, I appreciate no. So one thing I will say, I did think that establishing shot of Khazad-dûm is awesome.
Yeah.
When Aaron,
I just
when-
needed more of
when-
that.
Yeah, when Elrond walks in and he's just like kind of walking over. There's even a spot in that I was watching Corridor Crew today. They're like special effects guy, like YouTube channel, and they were going through some of the scenes. And that like, I don't know how much of that set they built out, but it looks like they literally built out that whole bridge he walks on and the like gatehouse that people are walking into because it or the CGI is
from the outside.
from like the moment when he walks in and it's like that big long bridge
okay.
and you kind of get that big kind of grandiose look at the entirety of Khazad-dûm. But yeah, I don't know. Sets wise, what did you? Anything else? Did you?
Sets wise,
I know I mentioned Linda, and you were like
Linden. Okay, so
I don't think that was the one where Celebrimbor is. Is that Linden?
In the beginning?
No, where he's trying to figure out where
At the
is
end.
that where he's trying to make the like stuff.
They're the stuff. They're in Linden.
Is that
yeah.
Linden? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that was a different city for some reason. Okay,
No.
all right,
Well,
that makes sense.
Linden. So Linden's nice. But when they're when they're in the forest,
I live there.
it looks like absolute shit.
You think so?
opinion. I thought it was like when Galadriel and Elrond are. It's like probably in the second season. They're talking in the forest, and even
Second
when they're-
episode.
I think it's in the.
You said season.
Second episode.
Yeah.
And then they also show it when Durin is having dinner with the elves.
Yes, with the table.
It's just the way the trees are lined, and it looked very flat. And
I would actually agree with that. That part, it's like the
almost
forest
look like-
ruins
It
area.
almost look like a set. I can kind of see.
Yeah.
what
I
you
agree
mean.
with that.
that was the only thing that stood out to me set wise that like I didn't really agree with. Like you said, Numenor was great, but I have other issues with the CGI in other ways that I guess we'll get into.
No, I love what else. I'm curious.
So I don't think $1 billion can make CGI look good.
Okay.
I mean,
the
we've
wolves-
seen that with Marvel, apparently.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know how you put up with it with Marvel.
I don't.
But the sea creature in the first episode after Galadriel jumps off,
Yes.
that took me completely out of it. The wolves take me completely
The
out of it.
wargs didn't look that good.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know. They all looked really good to me. Maybe
like-
it's my terrible Marvel approach to it. But I think I guess it didn't stand out to me where I was like, oh, that's taking me out of it. But,
but they're so like small apart that I guess I just didn't really.
Yeah,
care
you can kind
either.
of brush it off, but like,
Right.
Well, I went into this like, Jesus Christ, if they give it the Hobbit treatment, like I remember
Gonna be pissed
watching
off,
like
yeah.
the first 15 minutes of the Hobbit, and the orcs were CGI, and I was like, I had to turn it off, dude. Like,
throw it
like doing all the practical effects in the Lord of the Rings, like you're just gonna throw that shit out the window,
why?
and you're just gonna. I mean, didn't they say Ian McKellen like cried on the set of the
because he
Hobbit?
literally was just in a green
giant
screen room
green
by
bubble
himself.
fucking
Wait,
thing.
really?
Yeah, so he literally because they used forced perspective on the first Lord of
Mm-hmm.
the Rings to like put him in each scene.
Yes.
Whereas in this, since they were doing it in 3D, they had to use 2 cameras, so that don't work no more. So they just had to set him on a green screen set
cried, he
talking
was so
to no one,
upset. Oh
and he's literally like, there's a picture of him just sitting in a green room, just like.
How could you do that to him?
Well, he said it was like I can't remember the exact quote, but he's like like took away every fiber of my being to like get through that or something
my
like
God.
that. So that
I'm
was
sure,
really
I'm
rough.
sure he's an actor who's not really. Let me. Nah. Maybe he is.
Well, working like completely alone, like literally, he wasn't talking to any. I mean, it would be like either a tennis ball or someone would stand in for the
right.
lines.
I'm like he's in X-Men. Like how? Like he's
But
gotta
that's
be,
a
he's gotta
lot
have
of-
some experience.
Maybe it's
but you have
just
people
like-
around you. You're still interacting with someone on the green screen.
It could be what Lord of the Rings means to him,
Right.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
because they all ended up getting like tattoos and shit after the movie.
Yeah, it's like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That seminal film. No, it is interesting. I don't know. Again, the effects, I feel like for the most part, for me, didn't
all
take
the
me out
practical
of it.
stuff I think is great. The costumes,
The sets were
makeup.
great. Yeah, there was only one costume, and I mentioned this in our Discord at the beginning. Was their armor like for the
great.
ceremony at the beginning when they're being sent off to the west, Galadriel and all that? It just looked
Totally
super.
disagree.
Like, and I guess the idea is it's supposed to be this kind of thin, strong armor because it's the elves, but it just didn't look good to me. It looked very
Yeah,
tinny and
elves
stuff.
always wear. They're not like decked out in like plate.
For
They're-
sure.
They're wearing like like protective armor, but it's always thin. It's got like some.
Sure.
Smooth, like
Yeah, like the chains. It's got some robe to it. There's always like a specific.
No,
way
I know. It
elves-
just looked cheaply made to me. It didn't look like it should be an elf.
was it like what
It was.
Galadriel was wearing like in Numenor when they
No, that one I actually liked. It was like
was
it
a
was the
totally
one that they
different-
were all wearing,
They're wearing
at
like a
when they came back.
ceremonial armor as they're going to Valinor. Remember, and they take it off.
I'd have to. Watch
Yeah, you'd have
it
to, again. It was just the only thing that stuck out to me. But otherwise, I think all of it looked really good, and even especially the elven robes and stuff. Like I really loved Elrond's getup and even Celebrimbor's. I thought was very well.
Speaking of looks, what do you guys think about the way the elves look, especially the dudes not having long hair for the most part?
I did think it was an extra
Gil-galad.
interesting choice.
Gil-galad, yeah.
He has long hair, but everyone else. I'm like,
Excuse me, Mr. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, thank you very much.
is that who that is?
That-
Oh my god.
That movie is way better than it has any right to be. Anyways,
I do like
Gil-galad.
that
Yeah, I thought his outfit was interesting. He was very like I don't know how to hoity-toity.
I was really disappointed with Celebrimbor, and here's why. Shadow of Mordor really spoiled me with a cool Celebrimbor.
For sure.
Have you ever played that game? Mm-mm. So you basically are playing a Gondorian ranger who's been possessed by Celebrimbor, and he's the Bright Lord, and he is like fucking really cool. And he just sounds cool. And
I think it's his voice in that
he looks
really
like
that
a
does it.
warrior smith, and there's this one line he goes, "There can only be one Lord of the Rings," and he's like, I'm like, this is epic. And like Celebrimbor's really never been depicted, so this is I think that game was like the first time I've ever really seen this character, especially since he's like
He's in the very beginning of the
right, he
Fellowship of the
makes the rings. You think he'd be
So they do show him
Well,
for a
it's
few
literally
seconds.
just
very
him
quick.
holding the
Holding
ring
the
with
ring.
Galadriel and Elrond.
I see. I see.
So it's no one notable.
no one-
But like,
No, that makes sense.
Celebrimbor is a big character in the lore, but and I was just kind of disappointed at how
That's probably how they're able to use him in this.
That's
because
what
he
I-
was
that's-
in there for a fucking
Well, that's they
second.
lit. That's genuinely it.
He's so like sagely in this. I kind of wish he was more like warrior smith.
Sure,
like he
I
is
actually
in the
kind of
games.
liked the way they presented him. He grew. I didn't know how to feel about it at first, but he kind of grew on me
I didn't
as
really-
as it went on. But
I'm indifferent towards him. I
No
don't-
Sure.
opinion.
Yeah,
yeah. I
like-
mean,
They
but
definitely
again,
don't give him a
doesn't-
ton of
Yeah.
time.
He doesn't really do much, but again, I'm biased from Shadow of Mordor, so that's it.
I do
Elrond
think it's that
liked.
voice though.
Oh.
I loved Elrond.
He was good.
I'm like, I'm not.
between?
I'm a little uncertain about.
Okay.
Okay, so
I mean, we could talk about all the actors.
No,
Yeah,
well, so
so-
that's actually you're going to my next point literally
you
right
go.
now. Gooch is on it.
does Elrond kind of look like Dr. Oz to you? In this, I think he looks just like Dr.
Fuck
Oz.
you.
He looks
Fuck
just
you.
like him.
Why did you just put that in my head?
I think it's the chin.
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
chin.
now that you said it,
that
a tiny
iron-
bit,
it's
sure.
that iron jaw.
I found Elrond's temperament in this show to be interesting, just because we know who
What?
Elrond is in the Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
And like, who's to say Elrond wasn't like this kind person? 2,000 years ago. A
and-
lot can happen in 2,000 years.
And you know what's funny? The exact opposite happens with Galadriel. She becomes much more composed, motherly, calm.
For
sure. But underneath, we do see in Lord of the Rings, she's
badass.
she's got a
but-
rage
yeah.
For sure.
in her. And we see that rage just more depicted outwardly in this.
So I've actually been rewatching Lord of the Rings like sporadically, just putting it on here and there. I don't really remember much of his Elrond's kind of temperament from that. I don't know why I felt like I remembered him being like that within those movies, but maybe he isn't.
Nah,
in my
he's
mind,
just- he's just kinda like-
He's much more like-
emotionless. in,
That's what I
Lord of
feel
the
like,
Rings,
yeah.
But
Yeah.
like this, like
I feel like he feels like I don't even know how to describe. Yeah, tempered. He doesn't feel super emotional, but I mean, no, that's not true. He feels emotional, but in a reserved way to me. I don't know,
like a
comparatively.
political way, because that's what he is. He's a
I think
politician.
my
He's a
favorite
diplomat, I think.
my favorite storyline of this entire season was the him and Durin one
Yeah, that
for
was
me.
fun.
I felt like it was had the most
that
emotional
one-
resentment.
That one line he
resentment.
has is something about meat being raw or something like that. Oh my god! I'm like, that was a good line. But there are some other like pieces of dialogue that I did not think were good.
For sure.
Maybe with specifically Durin.
Yeah, I,
there was
I,
one that comes to mind.
Yeah,
when he's talking to his dad, he's like, "My friend is drowning, and he's reaching his hand out," and I'm like, "That."
I was really,
Keep going.
I don't know. I kind of landed
I-
for me for some reason, but that was a great Durin.
Mithril.
I just want to say
I'm like I was like, how do you say? I've always said it mithril.
Mithril.
Everyone has like such a weird. I'm like, just
Everyone-
mithril.
Yeah, we should. Yeah,
Mithril.
please excuse any mispronunciations
Mithril.
on this. Lord of the Rings
It's in
nerds.
a lot of other
no,
shit.
okay.
I'm just mithril. I don't know.
Galadriel, thank you. Or is that no? That's not even really
Well,
close.
yeah, some people would say
Galadriel.
so Galadriel. Or
Galadriel.
like Isildur.
They're really pronouncing.
Isildur.
They're
There's
really
a
pronouncing,
rolled
like,
on the end.
all the A's in her name.
Yeah.
But yeah, where usually people are just like Galadriel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Galadriel.
Hey, can I see Galadriel?
Do we like Galadriel?
I liked her a lot, and I was seeing online people did not like her.
No, that's
It's
the
because
funny
she's
thing.
a mad woman. Is essentially
Well,
probably why people don't
the
like
things
her.
I've been seeing
She's
online
grumpy.
is that she's not like that in the later ages, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
you can
I mean,
be different
that's
and
like
start
2,000 years.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, but you can change. I would have liked to seen a bit more growth in her character by the end. I feel like they kind of shotgun a bit of it by the end.
I think she does kind of.
But by the end, I did come around to her being like, she's like, oh, realizing like I got to stop being so headstrong. I need to really kind of think this through.
But but if you think about it, it happens when that town gets
For
destroyed
sure.
and covered in
Yeah.
ash, and
In
you
the
really,
Southlands, or?
yeah,
Yeah.
and you really notice it when she's talking to Theo and they're under that rock. By
I
the way.
really like that.
Same
I wanted
to
scene-
talk about that
same
scene.
from the Fellowship of
Yep.
the Ring. Yeah, with the Nazgul. I'm like, she's like the way she's talking to him is very different from how she's talked to anyone else in this series. Because
That did seem to be her humbling moment
He
a
is the
bit.
downtrodden victim of what she's fighting, and I think it like kind of puts it in perspective for her. But
There does come a point where she starts to blame herself for everything too. So like
Right.
the way like we see her in the beginning where she's so headstrong, like I would say probably at that point that you're talking about with Theo, I feel like that's where she like shifts into a more
I'm trying to think of the word too.
yeah,
I know,
like
leader,
Not even leader,
Like-
but like a more
like
she's
not
more
thinking
realist-
before she
a more-
acts
a
a
more
little bit. I don't
mature
know. Like,
leader.
yeah.
Because
Sure.
she's a leader, but she's like a headstrong commander.
well, she's so
fucking
focused
people
on
up.
avenging her brother. Who's her brother again?
I forget his name. Starts with an F.
Finrod,
Finrod, I think.
Yeah,
it Finrod? I
that's
think
a
that's
name.
correct.
That's a name I remember.
Yeah. No, I thoroughly I enjoyed her character by the end of the show for
Yeah.
sure. I agree. I felt like there was this kind of vitriol almost against at the beginning of like she wouldn't be like this.
Well, I think
What are we
people-
doing?
I think people are criticizing her acting.
Oh, really?
I think that like I was like
I didn't.
and
sorry
I
for
thought she was
you're
good.
right.
I
Yeah,
think she was good.
I kind
No,
of
I thought she perfectly did what she was supposed to do.
She is very grumpy. I will, like, I do understand that, but I think it's like none of the other elves act like that. So it's kind of interesting to see the juxtaposition of an elf who's like not very elfy. You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
just a little
Absolutely.
different. Yeah, because they're all like kind of calm and like
Proud.
uppity, like elves usually are.
Yep.
In fantasy, but
Speaking of
Galadriel's
proud
just-
people, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
she's
mean
in
to
the dirt a little bit more than the rest of them.
No, that
But-
makes sense. But speaking of some proud people, the Numenorians. What did we think of kind of their just whole reveal? And did you feel like what was going on there was conveyed well? Because I kind of was confused on what exactly the whole kind of conflict was there until I looked it up. And like until it got to like the later episodes,
What do you mean? Why they're mad at the elves?
why they kind of abandoned not the Vanir. Like they seem to be not along with the gods by now. Like what's the conflict going on there? Like because they don't like the elves, right?
Yeah.
Some of them don't. There's like the king's men, and then there's like the faithful.
Well, Elendil,
Yes.
he cares like he doesn't he has no ill will towards the elves or anything
he's
like that,
yes.
and the king. I think those are the only two that I remember.
Right,
that, like,
because
didn't
they were
have
a
any
part
animosity.
of when they were fighting Morgoth together, right?
Yes. But they've seen like they're like the one guy, the other dude. So she's like the king. She's like the king in the guy's stead, right? Or she's the queen because
it's Muriel, right?
yes,
Yeah.
because tell
Miriel.
what's the guy? What's the actual king's name? The names in this are rough. The old guy sitting in the bed.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but he's see that's the thing. Like I'm confused. Like what was
Numenorian king, we know.
they didn't want them to send people to help because they again it felt like they were trying to illustrate a conflict
I didn't
there,
see a
and
conflict at all. In
I think
Numenor.
they're just being xenophobic for the sake of
Yeah.
being xenophobic.
because they were like we haven't had elves here in 200 years
Right,
or
they just
whatever.
don't
They just
like
don't want like and the
anyone
guy
else.
was like I want the elves to work for me.
I mean, they have everything they ever like need, in
Right.
Numenor. Like, I feel like they're just isolated and they're fine being like that. you know?
exactly.
Again,
That's how I saw it as.
another
they
thing I was-
control the seas. That's their thing.
Sure.
And that's what they're gonna do.
Then within like other stuff, I guess the whole conflict within the like again the backstory that I was reading, it's like oh the Numenorians obviously they live for a lot longer than regular humans. Like
Yes.
they live for like 3. That's what what's his name is.
Is that because the city was built by elves? Or
No, it's
something like
because
that, or-
the gods, one of the sets of gods, like gifted it to them
light?
because of the because they helped in the war against
okay.
Morgoth.
Morgoth. Were you about to say Aragon too?
Yes, so Aragon's a Numenorean.
Yes. Yeah.
And they apparently live for like 200 to 250
Yeah,
years.
'cause-
But the whole idea is they're trying to attain immortality, apparently, like the elves, because they feel like it's unfair that the gods gave the elves immortality, but they still have to grow old and die. So, like, I feel like they were trying to get that across in this, but I had to look up that's what they were doing. And again, like, I feel
Okay.
like, because even by the end, spoilers, we're getting into spoilers, you see the one guy kind of looking over the king, and he's like, almost like sad. And I feel like they're trying to convey, like, I don't know, maybe because he's sad because he sees this is how men will always die and it's not fair. But again, I felt like that, and maybe they weren't trying to go for anything because you guys obviously didn't pick up on what they were, if they were trying to even do anything. So I don't know. Maybe it's me just thinking about it too much. But overall, did you guys have any other
I didn't
feelings
pick
on that?
any of that up really. Like I said, I just think that they are their own like little colony, and
Yeah,
they keep to
I didn't.
themselves.
I think like with Luke, with some things, I'm just kind of like in the middle about the Numenorians. I don't really like love them. I think it's interesting how they finally get convinced by Galadriel to go to the Southlands to aid them, and they end up getting totally fucked. And
Sure.
Muriel's blind, which I needed to go back on. I'm like, wait, how did she? Oh, the ash got in her eyes. Not really clear.
Yeah, that was they
Weird.
kind of screwed.
I
that
was
one up.
confused,
I
too.
thought I was like,
I
did
was
I
like,
miss something in an earlier episode
right, I was
that
like,
she had some condition or something?
yeah.
My girlfriend was like, "Remember the ash?" I'm like, "No, I don't."
I mean,
When
like,
did that
I
happen?
remember, like, yeah.
Well, because she was like,
happened.
"Remember when it crashed down on what's his
That
name?"
doesn't
I'm
like
like,
that
"Oh."
doesn't imply that like it's gonna.
Well,
blind
but apparently
her.
it showed her like
I
doing
didn't-
something with her eyes. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah.
Again, not
then
very well convinced. Conveyed.
When what's his name? Elendil is walking with her through the forest, and she's like, "When are we going to be clear of this smoke?" And then he says, "Like we've been clear of it for like a mile and a half or something."
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there. I was like, I think that's like
You're like,
the
huh?
creators were like, "Oh, that's where it's going to be clear that she's blind." I was just like,
No.
"Why
did
can't
she
she?"
say- What do
are
you
they
mean?
It
in
was
the
clear
smoke,
that she
or-
was blind.
It did seem
When she
still-
put, they're like,
Yeah,
"We're gonna have to put something on her fucking head."
It did feel kind of weird because you're like, it is kind of smoky still.
Yeah, no, that's what I was
you're
saying. I was like, it is a little smoky.
Yeah. So no, I did think that was not a very well conveyed like moment.
We haven't really talked about that. I forget that elf's name. I didn't know the woman is Bronwyn and Theo. How did we like that storyline? Because
Arendir?
Arendir, yeah.
Yeah.
I hated that. I like where it goes, but I don't like anything leading up to it.
I enjoyed him as a character, actually, surprisingly for
too.
being a new
Really?
person.
Didn't
Yeah,
I
I
just
thought he
wasn't
was.
fond of
It was
that.
this interesting idea of following this elf that was. They were all servants of Morgoth, right? He says at the beginning.
Adar?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
all those
no.
elves were servants of Morgoth. That's why they.
No.
He's just a dark elf. Like he fell under.
No, I'm talking about Aaron.
They were there as like it's just their outpost.
It's like they're
No,
stationed
no,
there, like-
their ancestors served Morgoth. That's why they had to stay there. That's what they say when the guy's talking to him on the tower. He's like
really?
our ancestors served Morgoth.
I didn't
so
catch
now
that at
that's
all.
why we watch over these lands, and so did these people. It will never be out of them.
Holy shit! I
No,
thought
At least
no, it's the other way around. See, the humans were serving Morgoth.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
I
the
thought he was
humans-
implying
okay,
both
that
of
makes
them
sense.
did.
So the
I thought
elves
he
have
was.
to be there to,
Okay.
which because the people end up going.
Yeah,
to,
Some of them do,
Adar
yeah, yeah.
Aldrig is. Well,
Wow,
yeah.
you're much better than names with this than I am, man. Whew.
I had to watch it like 3 times. Certain episodes. Like
I did
yeah,
watch like
then-
the first 3 episodes in one go, which
The
was
names,
nice.
like,
It did make it
were
go
tough,
quicker.
like some of the smaller characters.
No, absolutely. I still don't think it's as bad as House of Dragons with all the fucking.
Oh no, I got that down pat.
Well, I feel like they don't even say the names that much. Like Arendir, like you maybe
No,
hear
they
it,
don't.
like 3
They
times.
don't.
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
right.
Or like Bronwyn.
100%.
yeah, like I didn't like when when Arendir got captured and they're all with the people and they're digging the trench and like it's cool where that leads up, but I was just like, there's not enough fighting in the show. Like and we get fighting there, but it's like it's not like full
true.
on like field combat kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was some like pretty harsh violence that I wasn't expecting out of this. Like when the wolves tear up the one guy, it's fucking. I feel like
Yeah,
you see some
blood.
crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like and even just the way they get like torn apart, and then even when the one guy like really slowly stabs the one, I'm like, oh fuck. Like, it's real. He looks him in the eye, just slowly
it was
plunges
the
it.
most like piercing sword tone. I was like,
Just like fuck.
Okay.
Yeah. It was really like kind of drawn out. But yeah, I don't know. Is Lord of the Rings a fighting thing? I guess it is. You got
I
the
would
big
say it
battle
is.
scenes
Yeah.
near the ends and stuff
I would
like that
just,
for
just
sure.
as much as Game of Thrones can be.
Sure.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, House
would
of
disagree
the
with that,
Dragon
too.
is much more political than Game of Thrones was, but I really liked Adar and how they wrap that into, we didn't know who this guy was. Like, he's clearly some sort of evil elf, but we don't really know. And then,
Did you have an idea that he was an elf when you first saw him?
absolutely.
Yeah, I felt.
that
I
was
just
very clear
assumed
that
he was
an
just
elf.
an elf that was like,
You know,
I'm going to
turned.
serve Morgoth, and I guess that technically ends up being what it is. But
So then they explain that like he reveals to Galadriel like he is an Uruk-hai and he's like the
not an Uruk-hai.
Uruk.
An Uruk.
Uruk,
Yeah.
and he explains that one of the elves who like is a dark elf, and that's how Saruman explains.
He was one of like the first elves
The
that
Uruk.
that he corrupted.
That's exactly what he says.
Yeah.
In the twin. I think in the Twin Towers.
Yeah,
When,
but
or the Two Towers.
no,
he
I
says that.
thought that was a really great reveal, and I love the idea of all the orcs calling him like father and all because he did. I guess the idea is he did
Lord
make
Father,
them.
yeah.
So like, but like, how do they make the orcs?
So they're just mangled elves. Is the idea like I don't know how they continue to reproduce them.
Even them. See, I thought they were like artificially made somehow.
They're corrupted elves. That's at least from what I understood.
I remember it might be the Two Towers when
they're-
the Uruk-hai, when
they're
they birth
making
it,
them.
he comes out of like a mud sack.
Yeah.
And
those guys are like crosses between humans and Uruks. So they're like apparently their big thing is they can
Yeah.
go out in the sunlight. Where these Uruks
See, I need like
can't do
I
that.
need like a history lesson in this right
yeah,
now.
Yeah,
I'll read the Cimmerillion and we'll get back.
I
to
know,
it.
yeah. So yeah, the
We'll get back
Uruk-hai
in the
are humans mixed with orcs.
Uruks are just corrupt.
Uruks
corrupted
are
elves.
just corrupted elves. But I
the
think
orcs
these
are-
So wait, elves
no,
are
I'm sorry.
fucking the
Uruks are like the original.
So many words.
Uruks are the original corrupted elves that guy is like. They're still
Correct.
like more elvenly looking, I guess.
Yes.
And then orcs are what I guess he created, or like his
the
servants
most,
created
like, devolved
form of these. And yeah, I don't know specifically, but that's my best kind of roundabout thing that I've gotten from Nerd of the Rings.
I missed that history class.
No, yes, Lord of the Rings 101 or orc history. Yeah,
a brief history.
A brief history. So yeah, that was a very interesting reveal, and I did like the kind of double bluff of him sending the guy away with the sword. I was like, "Ooh, you got me."
Right,
I did
like,
not see
forgot
that
about
coming.
and I'm like, oh shit.
Something I found a little cheap in that scene between Galadriel and Adar is once Wildreg puts the sword and does the whole thing. All the
Key.
way.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cheap that they show where he was chained up, Adar, and then he's just gone.
I
You know?
agree.
I was
it was
like,
just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
he
like,
just
come
got
on.
away.
Come on.
No, I'd agree
But
with
dude,
that.
that reveal, like when I realized, I'm like, holy
Oh,
shit.
when Wildreg, I was like,
this is
dude,
Mount
because it
Doom.
was so little.
Because you knew the Southlands was Mordor.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It was very clear that like that's where that was.
Yeah.
And then like when Mount Doom began to erupt, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, that was a really cool moment for me. I was like, damn. And then like they have that dialogue, and he's like, like the Southlands are no more or something, and he's like, what do we call this place? And we get like,
it's
the
like
title card. I was
that
like,
was-
that
I
was
didn't
a-
really like that part.
I liked
It was,
that.
it was a
a
little,
lot.
I
it was
wish
a little
that-
goofy, but like I kind of liked it because they needed to do more title cards. By the way, they don't do enough.
I love all the maps personally.
Yeah, the
I love the
maps are
maps.
good.
I would have rather them do that. Like they pan out to the map. I guess they
I mean,
kind
they
of
do that
it.
in Lord of the
Right,
Rings
yeah.
too. So
So speaking of maps, where exactly are the Harfoots? In regards to the world, where are they?
I don't. I think they show us where they're at when they do the map transitions, but I don't know specifically.
Yeah, because I'm like, well,
They're apparently.
I mean, they're in the Southlands.
I think
right,
they might
they're-
be like
they're
east.
still
I
in
think they're
Mordor,
heading
maybe
to
like on the fringe.
Yeah,
somewhere?
I think they're probably just like on
Okay.
the outskirts.
Yeah,
of Mordor.
that's the only thing that's like if I had that context of like locations, especially sometimes with like games and stuff when they're like talking about shit, and I'm like, well, where is this place?
Sure.
Like I need to see it on the map.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm
Well, in
sorry.
terms of the map too, despite the CGI sea creature, I like Lord of the Rings never like showcases like the ocean region of
Right.
of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So I was like, when they were out there on the raft, I was like, wow, this is like they've never done this before. We don't know what's like out there.
Sure.
Right.
So I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I'm
that
hoping
is cool.
They,
I mean,
expand on that a little
So
bit.
when does Valinor become the Undying Lands?
Like, when do you hit Valinor? Or
Like,
No,
is
it's
there a
been so. It's
difference?
always been so. I think that's just it was given to the land, like to the elves, like after the first war, and it's ever
Undying
since the
Lands?
first. Yes,
Okay.
ever since
So
the first
Valinor
after
and
the
Undying
first
Lands
Great
are-
War.
are two different things.
No, I think they're the. I think Valinor is the Undying Lands.
You hear what
right?
I'm saying? You know what the Undying Lands are?
Like where they go at the end of Lord of the Rings, where
Right.
Frodo sails to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that
I would
Val-
imagine those are totally different.
Are they?
okay.
Yeah.
So we're
I mean, it sounds the same. Undying Lands and like Valinor, you get the Valinor and it's eternal
You're
life.
immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, I think that is. I think that is just the name, the actual name of the land there. But then it's also.
I wonder.
but I don't know.
Do they use Valinor in Lord of the Rings? Do they say it? Because I guess Elrond would. Know.
They just say they're sailing to the west.
Right.
Like we're gonna Frodo, you're sailing to the west.
I think they do say it.
I think they do
Because,
too.
They
Like,
would kinda
I
have
wasn't.
to,
I
right?
wasn't like I didn't feel like I was introduced to the term, like the name Valinor when I like watched this. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
it sounded like something that I had heard before. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
We haven't
specifically.
talked about Halbrand.
do
Get your
we
right on my
want to
list. I
call?
love it.
Okay.
I mean, it's full spoilers now, so it's Sauron. Sauron is
okay.
Halbrand.
Oh, okay. I didn't say it.
No, I already gave a spoiler warning.
I know, but
But
did
yeah,
you guys
so
see that coming? I mean, the last episode really heavy, but I didn't see that coming at all.
I just was like, I don't know who else it could be
right
because
Like,
there's
who
no
is
way
this
it
guy?
was Meteor Man, and there was.
The Strangers.
Really, you
What
did so. Before we get to Halbrand, because what you didn't like the Meteor Man. I liked him as a.
Meteor Man.
I thought he was kind of fun, but I just felt like that whole
Rocket Man?
storyline was so drawn
Goofy.
out and
Yeah.
goofy that I was like, all right, can we get to the important part of who this guy is?
So are those like elven sorcerers like Nazgul or something? Like the Wraiths?
So they seemed like wraiths. That's what I kind of guessed.
Yeah,
them
like
as.
when he kills them.
I was watching the Nerd of the Rings, great YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was
They
wondering
did-
what they were.
Yeah.
I thought they were just kind of bad human sorcerers.
Specters.
But then yeah, you do see them in like the unseen world, so they are wraiths.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like some type of experiment.
How did they fuck
Sauron.
that up that they thought he was Sauron? How'd they fuck that up?
I was going to mention that too.
How'd
It's
they
like
fuck that
you
up?
got one mission and you fuck it up. Like,
Well, I guess apparently it was a 50-50 shot. Apparently they both fell from the stars. I guess that's what they were implying. And then yeah, so they were like, as soon as they were like Sauron to him, I'm like, no, he's not.
Yeah, no way.
Like, why would he be? That doesn't make
So-
any sense.
did you ever think Adar was Sauron?
No.
No.
Okay.
I don't
That would've
know.
been too
No, I
obvious.
mean I didn't either, but it was like when Wildreg's like, "You are Sauron, aren't you?" Like their perspective, like, and like the fact that
yeah.
Adar doesn't even know who Sauron is.
Well,
was
apparently
really
he thinks
interesting.
he killed him, right? That's
Yeah,
the idea.
yeah.
And that's, I guess, looking back, that's why Halbrand has that moment where he's getting
He
ready
looks
to
back at
fucking
him.
kill him, and
Yeah.
he's like, and then Galadriel stops him. But, fuck, I was about to say something else.
Or he's like, "Did I cause you any harm when he's sitting in that barn
That's
locked
right.
up?"
And he's like,
"Did I
more than
kill
you'll
you?"
ever imagine
Yeah.
or something like that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Now that I know he's Sauron, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So maybe he did kill him.
No, well, I think he thinks he did.
He
But-
mortally
or
fit,
no, I
you
guess
know,
that's the thing. You can't really
he wounded him.
You can kill his physical form, but he can still like regenerate.
So-
But Meteor Man, I don't think he's Gandalf. I don't want him to be Gandalf.
I
I want him to be a blue
I
wizard.
don't think it's Gandalf.
It's got to be
either.
a blue wizard. And in here,
or Saruman. You think
So
it's
I don't
Saruman?
think it could be, but I feel like
No.
those are two ones that I feel like are the least narratively interesting and don't really even line up. I think they're more egregious kind of
yeah, like
departures.
if it was a young Gandalf, it would kind of make sense because like he's clearly building an affinity for the Harfoots, and like you know, there's a lot of with Nori and her friend. That scene is like when she's saying goodbye when Nori's leaving. Very Sam and Frodo.
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't love that they were doing the kind of like Hobbit on the unexpected journey with the wizard again.
See, but
Or
I,
just
I,
like
I
the
think that's-
nomadic
I think
Yeah,
that's trying
aspect
to
of it.
make the viewer to lead that is this Gandalf? You know,
No, well,
'Cause
so-
the wording and the adventure. Like,
I saw a YouTube
you know?
video. Nerd of the Ring said this, and it's like they can get a double whammy out of this because at the end of this, it really seems like you're kind of regular folk like that's Gandalf. Gandalf's on the show. We got even though they don't say his name for real. And then next season, so everyone's like, "Oh, Gandalf's in this. I'm gonna watch." And they get to the next season, and then you get another reveal of like, "Oh no, it's not Gandalf, but it's the Blue Wizard who we don't know anything about." And now we can kind of fill this in this way. So
And then it would make sense if he told maybe Gandalf about these like you know small, big-footed, hairy-footed people.
Well,
and then that's the reason he you know gets Bilbo. Like, is there really an explanation about why he picks Bilbo to be the thief? Like
I think the
why
idea
him?
is they are supposed to be light on it, but I don't know. I think it's just.
Like unless he had a bias we didn't know about,
I don't know.
you know.
Comment below if there is a reason, because I feel like there probably is some type of like justification,
Like
but
in
maybe
lore, yeah.
maybe not. I really don't know. But yeah, overall that was absolutely my least favorite.
Yeah.
By the end, especially the last episode, I'm like, all right, can we get back to the other stuff? Like, let's just get this done.
Like like I didn't hate it, but I just like as its own thing, I didn't like it being its own thing, right? That was kind of my thing.
Like at the end of it, like
Great.
really nothing came from it.
No.
You know, so that's what is so exhausting
It's
about it.
kinda just
the
a
fact that
setup
I
for
sat
what they're gonna
through-
do, yeah.
Exactly. It's like I sat through all this
a bunch
and
of
it's like,
nothing.
you know, it was just
And it was classic Lord of the Rings wizardry, where just winds blowing and people are yelling and.
Yeah. I liked that. Like you remember in Lord of the in the Two Towers when Gandalf and
This fight.
Saruman are fighting, and he's like swinging around, and they pulled that with this guy. Like I was like, okay, I like
Dude,
that.
if that movie was made today and that was the shit that was happening, we would be lighting that shit up.
But that's also the thing. I remember I was watching that with my friend Super, who he's a big Lord of the Rings nerd, and he's like, well, no, that's the point of magic in Tolkien. It's not like fireballs and lightning. It's just, it's more like kind of cerebral, and it's just, I'm like, but. Like he's like, well, you don't want to use like fireballs against regular people. I'm like, but he's fighting another wizard. Fireball that fucker. Use a lightning bolt. Fucking do something.
Lightning bolt.
Speaking of like you're talking about like wizardry and like Tolkien lore and stuff like that. I feel like something that was very un-Tolkien like was the meteor itself that he came down on. I was like, that does not even seem like something that like would exist in this. Like,
so I
universe.
think that is actually like from the book.
Oh, it is.
I'm pretty confident
You're
that
wrong.
they actually get like said. So you're completely I might be wrong, but I'm pretty confident that's how the wizards are sent
I do
down.
want to echo that, Luke, though, because I really didn't feel like this was like the Tolkien gold standard. You know, I did feel like, and going back to the rights issue, I did feel like I'm like, this feels different from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Like something isn't gelling the same, and it doesn't need to gel the same, but I felt like something was off, and maybe it is the way. I think the writing in most of the episodes like isn't the best, but it seems like it was all leading towards a very cool moment at the end where we get the Sauron reveal, and he is the one who we know he becomes an elf, and he takes the form of an elf and helps create the rest of the rings, and of course the One Ring. But seeing him at the very beginning for the 3 rings for the Elven Kings was like, whoa, he's real. Like, and then he disappears, and he'll be back, I guess, in another form.
Well, on the topic of like how this feels, the entire time I was watching this, I was like, this feels like a fairy tale. This doesn't feel like the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings does not feel like a fairy tale to me. That feels like a full blown like drama, like heavy narrative. Like this had like the whole Harfoot thing. Like that's just like classic fairy tale. Like,
I
shit.
hear what you're saying.
Even like maybe it was I wouldn't say there was a lack of violence, but it wasn't as violent as Lord of the Rings.
There's a lack of violence. There's not a lot of fighting, and I think that's a big miss.
So I think that added to it too.
That first scene where Finrod's like screaming and he's like fucking holding North
I gotta
back,
say,
like, that was
guys,
sick.
I really disagree. This feels like super Lord of the Rings to me. It just feels like a higher fantasy time period within Lord of the Rings and an earlier time period within it. And I do think that gels with what this time period within the lore is. And I do think that is because, I mean, Lord of the Rings versus Second Age, especially First Age. Again, I'm now a Lord of the Rings expert, so please stay with me. It seems like it was a time where it was more fantastical and less kind of like
people figuring things out. Or
people are
like
still
that,
figuring stuff out, and it's much less about the kind of non-magical, more Game of Thronesy drama than this is. But I don't know. I do see what you're saying, though. It absolutely feels more like high fantasy than especially Lord of the Rings, for sure. But even still, I feel like there's not a ton of like actual magic in this, which is funny. Like you get
there
a few.
really isn't.
You get like some stuff with Wizard Man, Meteor Man, and
there's some like elven stuff, like
Exactly.
the medicine that they use on Bronwyn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then Sauron as well, which is
So-
funny.
Yeah.
Halbrand. Yeah.
the actual
Halbrand.
anything else on those before? There's one.
I just wanted to pitch this out. So is Halbrand an actual real person that he like resurrected or something?
No, he just I think he just changes forms. I don't think.
Right. So it's just some random look.
Yeah.
Like not like I'm like, oh, did you actually like go find the king of 1,000 years ago and like take his corpse?
face.
So a
and, like,
theory
have
I
you
saw
thing?
online was that he wasn't Sauron the entire time, and maybe Sauron swapped in for him after the battle.
Okay.
But that's what I mean. Like that's so like
How do we know that? Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't think they're smart enough to do that. First off, second off, I don't know how I'd feel about that if they did kind of reveal that somehow. But I did
him the
kind of
whole
like his
time.
interactions a lot with Galadriel. There were a few where I was just like, okay, that works, I guess. But I feel like it really does turn up the evilness at this last episode because it's just like a reveal. I kind of would have liked to seen more of that undertone throughout the series.
Maybe it was there. I'd
And
like to go
so
back
that's the
and
other
watch
thing.
it again. You know,
That's a fair point too,
Right,
for
'cause
sure.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, shit, did I like totally miss like? I mean, that one thing with the Dar totally on point.
No,
about
for
that.
sure.
I'm like, there's got to be some more lines like that. I did really like when Galadriel kind of gives up her dagger to be forged into the rings. It's kind of feels
That was
like
her brother's dagger, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, she's kind of like a part of it more so than just being a wielder of the ring. Like she kind of makes a sacrifice and like puts herself in it.
So
a little
did
bit.
that make sense to you guys that she didn't really like sell anything before they made the ring? Like, cause I was like, why isn't she like mentioning this that she just found? So I get she doesn't want.
No, because
Oh, the Sauron information?
Yeah.
Oh.
because he is helping them forge these rings.
No, I know,
to
and
save
he's
them.
I know, and he's gone. But like, maybe just still let them know, right? Like I would like, hey guys, Sauron just gave us this info. I do think that, and because that is the idea, she sends him away so that he can't corrupt these rings. Those
Yeah.
are the only three he can't really do anything with. But again, by the time those 3 rings are made, all the other ones should be made too.
Do you think that it could be that she feels like some shame towards?
So that was a possibility for sure.
because like
Because
She
he even
got him there.
he even
yeah,
says
because
that.
like all of this is like her fault.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
all of it.
And then I guess Elrond knows by the end because he picks up
Yeah,
the
he
scroll.
picks up the scroll.
Yeah,
Right.
or at least he knows something's up at the very least. I will say I was very underwhelmed with the actual creation of the rings. I felt like it
Oh,
was.
dude, I thought it was epic. And then the credit song when they sing.
Oh
the
god, the song was so
I
good.
Oh, the
loved it.
music in this
I was like,
Yeah.
is top tier. It's the
Bear
same
the
guy who
title.
did.
God of War.
Yeah,
Bear
yeah.
career. He also does The Walking Dead. He does a lot.
It's
yeah.
really good.
that song at the end. I was like, oh, I listened to it a few times. I'm like, it's really cool.
I cannot disagree on that. But yeah, I just felt like the actual forging was very like, okay, they're spinning it. Okay,
I don't
and
know.
here's the
I was,
rings.
I was
All right.
emotionally invested.
I felt like that should have been a half an hour,
and
45 minutes of the elves conversing. And I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much, and that's fair. But it just felt like it was kind of like, we have the rings. Here you go. We poured out the metal.
See, and I think you mentioned that you think they're, excuse me, all forged at the same time. So like in season 2, they're definitely gonna, like
well, they
okay,
are.
like,
Well,
are we
by
gonna
the
do
time they make
dwarven
all,
ones now
well,
and the
they should
men's?
all be made by now. The elven rings are the ones they've made last.
I just don't know that to be true.
Well, no, that is the. I mean,
the
that's
lore.
that's how it should be. Like,
Oh.
yes, that is how.
It's so in the beginning of the Lord of the Rings, that is
when they create all the rings, the last 3 they create are the elven rings. They've already made the
Interesting
men.
because it starts with the elves, then the dwarves, and then the humans.
Well, at least they're all definitely made at the same time. That's what Nerd of the Rings told me. Okay, God damn it, guys. But
I'm sure he knows it.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows.
so get off my back,
I'm not
okay?
questioning him.
But no, I just felt like that was a bit underwhelming to me.
And-
like I was saying, like let's cut away from the Harfoots and get back
Yeah.
to the ring
Speaking of
forging.
the show kind of like deviating off lore, that seems to be like a thing they're doing in a way, because like we don't like, if this is Gandalf, the stranger's Gandalf, we're breaking lore.
He's
here.
there way too early, I think.
And
yeah.
Galadriel also talks about her husband being dead, like gone.
He never came back, so
Right, but he clearly is in Lord of the Rings, so
Yeah.
he did not die.
I'd be very surprised if they actually
Tell
killed
me
him.
where's Gandalf? I much desire to speak with it.
Oh God.
Well,
Yeah.
do we want to talk about the violence that there is?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
because the one part I did, this is so weird that I teared up at this, but it was just like chef's kiss was when Galadriel rides in with the Numenorians to save the villagers.
yeah,
and she
yeah.
dodges like the arrows and shit like that. I was like, dude, that's
That
like
was good.
Legolas to a T.
Yeah.
Like
For
I was
sure.
loving that.
No, that works.
And I thought that whole sequence was. I thought
was
that
great.
whole battle sequence was
Yes.
great.
I feel like
I
that's
agree.
when the show, and that is the episode with when the mountain explodes, where it really
Yeah,
like
the third,
We're- everything- like
the
they-
third to last. Yeah.
this show works the best when they are focusing on one storyline.
Right.
And I think that that episode really illustrates it, and that is a fucking. It's honestly one I forgot.
And again,
I would like to
I hope
rewatch some of
season
this.
2 kind of just brings the ball in a little
Sure, a little
tighter
closer to
with-
the chest.
with what's going on. Yeah.
Do you think with? I mean, I guess it's too early to tell. I was gonna say like if they do a season 2, that it's going to be the beginning of the Fellowship at the end, or the Hobbit. That is, sorry.
I don't know. See, I think they're
I
gonna
mean,
do.
there is 2,000 years
Good-
in between there,
Good,
but like
good thought, because I thought it would just take off right from. Where
I
we
think
left
it's
off,
gonna.
or
I think
something.
it's gonna end with them defeating Sauron, cutting off.
well,
his
that's what I'm
hand.
saying.
oh,
cutting
Oh,
his
like
hand
that.
off.
Okay, yeah,
cutting
yeah,
his
yeah.
hand off.
I
but
get
the
not
thing
like
is,
the actual forging
I mean,
of
yeah,
forming of
yeah,
the
but
Fellowship.
like where.
There would have
like-
to be a chime jump, because then we would end with that battle in Isildur dying.
Because I
and
mean, we
losing
still
the
need to
One
see
Ring.
like the Numenor, like there's some big shit
Well,
that happens in Numenor.
We're supposed to think that he's dead right now.
So I don't understand how he becomes king.
Who?
Isildur.
I mean, I could tell you, but
Oh, okay, don't.
that's what I'm saying.
Am I going to learn from Nerd of the Rings?
You should, yeah. I mean, he talks about like because I mean, how we get
is he
from.
gonna tell me when I watch this video?
There's a whole storyline with the Numenors and why that like
Because I'm like, okay, does his
because
dad
Numenor
fuck
doesn't
Muriel or
exist
something?
in Lord of the Rings. The
I know,
later movies.
it's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we're gonna see why that is,
Right.
and we're gonna see.
And I think that's what the king is alluding to. And-
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
and
so
the vision, yeah.
possibly, yeah. So we're gonna see all that, and then we're gonna see how Isildur does become a king. Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Isildur is the son
he's the son of Elendil.
of Elendil, right?
And he has a brother, but the brother wasn't in this.
The
And they made like a
sister
sister
is fictitious
a
from-
new
And
character.
the
yeah.
sister, might I say, her storyline, there was nothing to it either.
Oh, it
was very
Stupid.
confusing. Oh
Stupid.
yeah, that's right. So there's that one part where
Why
he like
she
shows
has,
her
like,
the
a
Palantir, and then like it just cuts and we don't see anything from her
but
again.
also like she has this like love interest, and isn't that the guy that tries to like
Yeah.
capsize the boat or something like that, or like blow
yes,
it up?
yes,
Oh, he fought-
yes,
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
and like whatever came of him.
But
I don't
again,
remember
that's what I'm
anything
saying. I
happening
feel
to
like
that
the
guy.
Numenor stuff was. I feel like they were trying to give you a story there, but it just wasn't landing, and I just don't know like what. I don't know. That was my most disappointing aspect of the besides the Harfoots for me.
I liked surprisingly. I liked the Isildur Elendil
Dynamic.
Yeah, dynamic.
Absolutely.
Like the whole sea. What are they called?
The Sea Guard.
Yeah, the Sea Guard, like him not
They're
wanting to
cool,
join,
aren't they?
and then
The one thing I didn't really like, I found it was just I don't know, it made me like chuckle. It was when they all get back up on shore and they're like, "The sea knows" or something like that, and I was like, it seems couldn't have come up with something like a little bit better than that. I don't know.
I like the scene where they're sparring with Glasgow.
Oh, that was good,
Really
too.
like that scene. I'm trying to think of anything else.
oh god, but wait,
What?
scene that really took me out of it was when Halbrand snaps that fucking guy's like arm. Remember, he's
Oh,
like
yeah.
fighting because he takes his coin.
right.
And walks
right.
away, and then they corner him, and I was like, "That is not Lord of the Rings. Like, you're not seeing like people's
Yeah.
arms like
For
snap
sure.
and
Going back
stuff.
to like
I thought
not-
it wasn't
not-
a terrible action scene, but yeah, it doesn't feel right
Yeah,
for
it did-
Lord of the Rings.
right, you
I would
don't-
agree
you
to
don't
that.
see that kind of shit. Yeah.
Like hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very kind of almost John Wick in a way.
and it
then-
was like right in your face, like
again,
like,
yeah, even film like
Yeah.
I
Check
agree.
this out.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Jeff Bezos
fuck-
wanted this personally.
It does make sense that he was able to really fuck those guys up easily, though. now looking back, but it was a weird way to do
Are we missing
it.
any big points?
I think we've hit everything on my list.
I know we didn't talk super in depth of like the Bronwyn and the Arendir. No,
Yeah,
like that romance.
that's right.
I did they kiss at any point?
Yeah,
they did.
once I think I
Okay.
believe so. Yeah, I felt like that was kind of very ancillary.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's, like there's a lot of.
what did you think
ancillary
about
stuff.
like the Durin and v Durin like situation?
Oh,
about
I kind of enjoyed that, but again, I think we needed more dwarf stuff.
yeah, I felt like they really wanted to show that Balrog.
Oh, that was good. though.
You liked it?
I like that.
Oh, dude, yeah, I was like, okay, because we all know what that is.
It kind of just felt like a member berry to me. Like there was just like,
Yeah.
it's remember this, it might be coming. Who knows?
I
don't
wish
know.
we like. I didn't really understand like why like they're so like uptight about the mithril. Like I just
Because so what I took from it is because mining it was literally so dangerous that they don't want to like
because they're gonna
Fall and
I mean,
stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
they
collapse
They
underneath.
get it anyway. You know, it happens,
well they got that little bit, but he wants to continue to dig for more of it.
but they do.
No, he stops it. Remember?
No, but in the future they will.
Well, no. So that's not them necessarily digging for mithril. That's just them digging deeper and deeper, and then that. I don't want to spoil it. Like,
No, but they do make a ton of mithril elven weapons. That's what Sting's
So I
made
guess
out of. That's what
that's true. I didn't think so. I guess
Right,
the
that's
idea
what,
is then they at some point they
Gandalf's
do
sword is
continue.
made out of, so they get it.
I know
And
another
that's
big
elven
contention
gear.
here.
You know, there's a season 2.
Is there?
I know another big contention from lore heavy folks. I don't know why I said that like that. It's fine. You can enjoy the lore and want it to be right. The two Durins are not supposed to exist at the same time.
Yes.
Because it's
King
not
Durin
like.
and
So,
well, they make a point to say that. He says,
does he?
yeah, he says like, or no, Durin says like, you know how much of like an honor it is to be named after the king or something. I think he's talking to his wife Disa or something. Like,
See, I just took that as him like being like because it's my dad. So like, but I guess the idea is Durin's like it's a name placed on someone who they believe
To be like the reincarnation,
of that original king. It's not necessarily like a name that passes down to your kid.
And what about the?
And I know there's a
true
lot
name
of condensing in time in this. Like there should have been like 4 or 5 Numenorian kings within this technical time period of the rings being made and all that, because they only live for like 200 years. But this takes place over like 8. I don't know, in the books, anyways. Again, expert. But. Yeah, guys, I'm trying to think of anything else. We covered the Southlands.
I never really
Halbrand.
talked about Theo.
Yeah, that's right. So, what did you guys think about that whole storyline in general?
I mean, I like purposely almost didn't bring him up because I don't really have any much to say about him.
Okay.
Like,
that was my way of being like, if you guys want to say something, because I don't have anything to say
Yeah,
about it.
It was very weird. I did like that
there's
one
a
scene
lot
when
of
the
characters you just feel really
sure.
secondary
and just very ancillary stories. But I did like the scene when the orc's in the house. I thought that was a good kind of
when he
intro to
fights
them.
the orc.
And he's like, the orcs look great. That's one thing. I know
really
we
good.
kind of talk about other stuff, but
That money.
they look disgusting. And if they got anywhere near me, I would not like it at all.
Oh yeah, like when the blood pours on him. That
Dude,
was
when,
also
like-
something that I didn't think like Lord of the Rings, but it's like not real blood. It's like
right.
black
The orc blood, yeah.
So it's different. Orc blood, it doesn't count. You know?
So we want more action, but not very violent action.
I mean,
I would. That's where I mean, like.
I know, and I think I'm just
I'm
clarifying.
open to-
I don't
I'm
mean
open to
that
whatever.
kind of sounded like.
I-
So you guys want? No, I think
I
that
just
makes
get
sense.
I just get what Luke is saying. I
Sure.
guess is what I'm saying.
No, I
again-
understand too.
I mean, what was his name? The Mouth of Mordor or something.
The Mouth of Sauron.
The Mouth of Sauron, yeah, where they cut his fucking head off. So.
Well, so
mean, that
that's
was-
only in the extended cut too, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's funny. I watched the extended cut years ago with my
That,
one friend, and I was like,
Eowyn kills him, right?
no, it's
No, that
it's
was-
Aragorn. He just rides behind him and fucking
She kills.
she kills the Witch King.
Yeah.
the Witch King.
Yeah.
Of Angramar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was so. That's just like that whole scene is just like he's like. And they just cut his head. Like he's like some
I can
bad-
see.
I can see his mouth in my head. I'm like, that was disgusting. It was
it's
just
like-
like a nothing. It was just like.
I'm
fuck
wondering
you.
why. Yeah, that is an interesting one. I guess I get why they cut it, but there are so many like vital scenes, and I was like, this wasn't in the movie. Like when they kill Saruman, when he falls off, or when he like is
When he
on the
gets stabbed
tower.
on the back.
Yeah, and he falls off the tower.
That's only in the extended
That's only
cut?
in the extended cut.
That's bizarre.
I remember. I think Christopher Lee got real pissed about that too.
Yeah,
because he got
it
cut.
Was on,
He's a big Tolkien. He was a huge Tolkien
Yeah.
fan. Like so.
Yeah.
My favorite story about
Didn't he
Chris.
know him?
He could
Might
have.
have. He was like 100 years old when he died.
Look up a podcast on Christopher Lee. He's one of the most insane and interesting individuals ever.
He's
My
a metal. He used to be in a metal band.
Yeah, and he was in the army and shit. He did like spec ops shit. But my favorite story
Yeah.
from the set that like Peter Jackson was talking about. He's like when he gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson's like, I want you to like he's like, oh no, when you stab a man in the
Oh
back.
yeah, I think I saw this.
You wouldn't make a noise.
He doesn't make a noise. He goes breathless, and he's like, okay. So
All right.
I guess he stabbed a man in the back at one point. But it's so funny.
Was this filmed in New Zealand?
I
Like Lord of the
believe
Rings?
so.
Okay.
I think so. There are a lot of shots where I was like, oh, is that actually outdoors or is that CG?
set.
I can't tell. And I think that's, I guess, a good thing that I couldn't really necessarily notice a bunch of time. But there are definitely a few good shots, like when he's talking to the queen. God, the names are so bad with me. When he's talking to the
Muriel?
blind queen on the Muriel on like
Muriel.
on the hill, and that's when Galadriel comes up to like after the whole battle, and like that just kind of look out, that view was amazing. But I did find that scene of him kind of turning away and being like after, so I was
Elendil.
like, what the fuck is
You
happening
know what I
here?
was like waiting for, and this is me just being like a fan of the OST from Lord of the Rings. You know the song "The Knife in the Dark."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for the. No. I was like, I was just waiting for that to happen.
I was kind of afraid they were going to take him in like I actually am not about this anymore. But then they actually had that moment with Muriel that I thought was very well done, when it's like, to be faithful is to not know what the cost is or whatever. And that hit very well with me, and I felt like it tied that whole storyline up very well.
One other scene that, I mentioned, like the Galadriel, arrow pull thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another very Lord of the Rings feeling scene for me that took me back was when Galadriel is chasing Adar on horseback.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I was like, dude, that is just like when Arwen and Frodo.
You're right.
Yeah.
when
That's a
she's-
good call.
when she's I was like, because you see the trees flying by,
Yeah.
and like I thought that was a really, really good scene.
Always love a good horse chase.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. No, that
poor
was really
horse
good.
that was on fire.
Oh yeah. It survived.
It did.
Yeah.
It's like Bill the Pony.
Yeah. Why don't they use CGI horses? Where is the ASPCA? No, I'm kidding.
I think they're just dogs. Wouldn't that be like PETA?
I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. What's
like,
the ASPCA again?
It's dog rescue.
Is that?
Oh no, I think it's all like normal pets.
That's what I was thinking of, not the ASPCA. Guys.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I think that's it. We covered everything on my list here.
So are we ranking a show for the first time?
Gooch. No, Luke, actually start us
Yeah,
off.
you got to start us off. But we're
going to be using the film.
We need to develop a game version and TV version.
I'm going to get to this
pretty
right after that. I'm going to
interchangeable.
get down to this.
All right.
Yeah, I'll challenge you.
No.
I think you guys are going to be surprised.
I'm curious.
I'm giving it high tier movie.
All right.
High tier movie.
Yeah.
It's very close to being low tier film, but it's at high tier movie for me.
All right, Gooch.
This is a tough one.
You had to have thought about this before I came here. Come on.
No, not really.
It's funny. I don't know why I didn't either. Now I'm really kind of going over in my head.
Low tier film. It's the production. The production.
Okay, yeah.
I
really
think I am with
raises it.
Gooch on that one. Low
Wow,
tier
and
film.
I'm the one like giving it the suck off the whole time.
No, I know that's the thing. So
I don't hate this by any means. Like again, the ending
There's just
really
the little-
brought it up for
Yeah.
me.
genuinely, I think it's the production value that's pushing it over the edge for me. Like every scene in it, for the most part, I was just like, God, that looks fucking gorgeous. Like I feel like I'm in Lord of the Rings for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. I'm leaning towards low tier film. I'm gonna stick with that. So that's where we're at. Low tier film for Gooch. High tier movie
High
for
tier
Luke.
movie for me. At the
Low
moment,
tier
yeah.
film for myself. Guys, let us know what you thought of Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, below. Or anywhere on Facebook, YouTube.
Tweet me.
Tweet them. Tweet us.
DM me.
What are you, Tokyo Griff?
I'm Tokyo Griff now.
But guys, thank you so much. Guys and gals, thank you so much for watching. If you've been watching live with us on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network, we very much appreciate it. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network. We have a Facebook page as well as a Discord channel. Luke's getting heated in here. He needs to unbutton.
I think Luke has something to say when you're done.
No, I was just
being weird.
yeah.
I like it.
because you said you can't show.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's getting a little warm in
no,
here.
No
So
nips on.
No nips on Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Socials, Discord, everything's linked below. Do we link our Twitters or anything on here?
I mean, our personal ones.
Yeah.
No.
Or we have, yeah. You can find us through on Twitter, yeah, something like that.
_ the Gooch.
Or hashtag Delco Nerd Network. Well,
if you see
I
me
try
on
to
the
look at
street,
this.
stop me. You know, I'm a very friendly guy, and we can talk about this one-on-one.
He will kill you. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
When are we
He has guns underneath the table. No,
trademarking the
kidding.
review system. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, we do need to work on that.
We're working on that right now.
But guys,
I don't have the rights to it yet.
I got. Who's my assistant? Katie.
That's right, Kate. Yeah, she's
our DNN receptionist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll send that invoice for your payment over to her.
We'll get those emails over
Yeah.
there.
But guys, everyone, thank you so much for watching. For Gooch, for Luke, I've been Trio. We'll see you guys next time.